Bonjour, bienvenue. Let's discover how to negotiate a productive conversation and not be left on the sidelines. You'll need some useful vocabulary and how to pronounce it, and some techniques for building your confidence. So, let's dive in. Here's what you'll discover. We're looking at a little bit of preparation and practice, learning polite interruption phrases, negotiating a supportive environment, techniques for active conversations, building confidence, and some ideas on using resources. So, starting with preparation and practice, I say you've got to learn your vocabulary, you've got to learn some phrases, but learn some common, simple phrases and vocabulary like greetings if you're a real beginner, some introductions, some polite requests to build your confidence. If you're using small amounts of beginner phrases, you will get used to saying them, as well as that's as much as I know right now. I'm learning. People are sympathetic. You can try role playing with people to practice aside from your actual going out and meeting people. So simulate conversations in a safe environment. I would say role play different scenarios to get comfortable with real life interactions. So let's say you're ready to go and buy your bread in the bakery, and sometimes you just stand there and think, I can't go in yet, I can't. What's that phrase? I can't remember it. And I've had people tell me they go in and then they go bonjour on the way out because they're nervous. So basically, when you're learning them and you practice them with someone, you kind of get a relaxed routine, and it's not so bad when you do it in real life. Another thing is listening practice. Now, people say just go and listen. It's a little bit random. So it's actually okay to listen to French conversations through easy podcasts, videos, or language apps. It does help comprehension and familiarity with natural speech patterns. It's not necessarily going to teach you French. You're also going to get saturated after a few minutes. All I suggest that you do for your listening practice is to go slow, maybe put the news on or the weather or something French. Practice copying what you hear at random, a sound, part of a word, a phrase, or even if you can memorize a sentence, wherever you're at, and then repeat it yourself. Because what you repeat, what you say, you can understand more easily. Just listening passively is not going to teach you anything. It just goes in and goes out, and your brain is saturated, so it's thinking of something else like, what am I going to eat tonight? What am I doing later? And it's just gone in and come out. It becomes background white noise. So focus a couple of minutes at a time on something specific and do repeat it. Now, interruption phrases. So there you are, you're going to a conversation. You want to join in and equip yourself with some common polite phrases used to interrupt in French. We're brought up to wait for a pause and not to interrupt. Like I was brought up, it's rude to interrupt. It's rude to interject. But actually, we need to get used to it. If you let someone in a conversation rattle on for 5, 10, 15 sentences, well, if you don't understand what they're saying, you zone out. And it's possibly why, when you're sitting at a table, you think, what am I doing here? Everyone's talking and I haven't a clue what's going on. You can't learn from that situation, and you're certainly not involved. And you're kind of silently negotiating that that's okay to be in that situation. You're letting people generate a monologue if it's just one-to-one because you're not involved, and it's disheartening for both people. Imagine it the other way around, where you're talking to me and I go, like after a minute or so, you were talking about something really exciting, and then suddenly I go, I haven't a clue what you've just said, but you said so much. You're not going to say it all again. You were enjoying telling people whatever it was. So it matters to interrupt. Stop them at the first sound or first sentence. Don't be afraid to be proactive. Otherwise, you're saying it's okay that I don't understand. And that's not a conversation. You need to reinforce that you care to understand what they're saying and to respond. Now, even if that means going really slow and having very simple conversations, thank them and say, thank you, I understand now, that's great. But don't forget to repeat it back so that you're learning and get that interaction as well. So you could say, excusez-moi, excusez-moi. Give them the face. Pardon. It's a good stopper. Or just visuals, body language is really helpful. You could say, if you want something a bit more sophisticated, puis-je dire quelque chose? May I say something? Puis-je dire quelque chose? Puis-je dire quelque chose? Puis-je dire quelque chose? Une petite question. Give yourself some body language in there. Don't just go, une petite question. Well, however you do it, on the spur of the moment, just help yourself by practicing it and making it feel natural to you. In your role play situations, practice interrupting. Or even better, hey, je suis désolée de vous couper la parole. Couper la parole. To interrupt, to cut what you're saying. Je suis désolée de vous couper la parole. I love that sentence. Now, to get your supportive environment is really, really important. Not everybody's going to be perfectly sympathetic. They haven't got time, and we know this. So if they haven't, so what? Somebody else will have. So it's okay to make mistakes. We have to forgive ourselves. We're learning. We don't accuse youngsters who are learning our language of getting it wrong. We just help them get it right. Or overlook it if it's not important and become one thing. Or just overlook it because right there, it's not important. So you get yourself a supportive environment by negotiating it and saying, please correct me on the major mistakes I make. And then you go, you find yourself going, well, that'll be everything. But it's not. It's not. Let yourself negotiate the mistakes and ask someone to correct you on grammar or vocabulary or to help you put a sentence. It doesn't matter what it is, to put a sentence together or just pronunciation. Now, participation is far more important than perfection. And once you're participating, then you can negotiate your improvement at the level you want it because they know that you want to be improved. Do ask for slow and clear speech. Je voudrais comprendre. Or doucement, s'il vous plaît, doucement. I add why here to connect you more with the person. They get what you want. If you just say, doucement, s'il vous plaît, it's very common. But if you go, je voudrais comprendre, they know that you're taking time. It works. Now, positive reinforcement is something that is vital. Do celebrate your efforts and progress, no matter how small. Do it by checking you've understood. Si j'ai bien compris. Now, put a little note there. Don't eat all the cake. Basically, if you don't know English and I say to you, don't eat all the cake, and that don't is gobbled up, haha. And all you hear is, eat all the cake, you're really on the wrong foot when you're discovered because the whole cake has gone. You've eaten it all because you didn't hear the word don't. Clarify, si j'ai bien compris. It's really nice, really rewarding that you are told you've understood well, and then you carry on. Now, it's okay for the conversation to be really short at the beginning. It's normal. It doesn't matter. I learned Arabic in the taxis by starting by saying, hello, how are you? And then I'd get another word in by saying, I'm good, not so good, tired. And then asking the question, are you okay? And it goes on. You build it up every time. One more word. Just build it up slowly and thank yourself. Thank the people you're with and look back. We so forget to look back. We need to reward ourselves our journey. We're so focused on the difficulty. Neuroscientists have said we actually have a tendency to focus on the negative more easily than the positive. So build the positivity into your thoughts and look back at how far you've come. Make a note of doing that once a month or so, or periodically in your learning. Look back and realise how far you've actually come. You'll still be focused on the difficulties ahead. This is a lifelong process, and that's the beauty of it. Be grateful that you're going to be constantly challenged, never bored, always pushed, always keeping your brain alive and having that constant rewarding conversations that you're doing really well. Now, in the confirmation stage, there's so much learning opportunity. It's rewarding in itself. Make a note of it if you need to, but please don't make lists. That's another thing on my list of things not to do. So active conversations are really important. Ask an open-ended question. Questions that require more than a yes-no answer do encourage people to speak more. It gives you a learning opportunity. If you repeat new words carefully to get used to them, chances are when you hear them in different contexts, your brain is triggered to say, I've heard that before. And that's part of the learning process. It helps you start putting them into your own active conversations. Don't beat yourself up. That word that you put on your list yesterday doesn't pop into your head automatically. It takes a lot of reinforcing in different situations for us to absorb new vocabulary. Use gestures, visual aids, post-its, notes, non-verbal cues. It all aids understanding, and it helps people who are talking to you know when you need help. That look, when I give that look to my neighbours, they stop and go, and they don't even need to say anything. They give me that look. They get the nod and they start again in a different way. And I try and identify the word that they used, and then I learn it, which is really good fun. I feel grateful that people help me that way, but it all starts with a look, and that's because I've negotiated. They help me. They're very tolerant and very kind. Now, please simplify your language. Don't try and translate. It's a thing I have. If you translate, you're going to use complex sentences, complex grammar, and nothing calculates with a language. You'll find that many words will just swap positions, but then the more you learn, the more the positioning actually is all over the place, or it's just not that, or the idea that you're trying to say or share is put forwards in a totally different way. So keep it simple at first. Use simple sentences and avoid complex structures or idiomatic expressions initially. Like I say, please don't translate. It does slow you down. If you understand, don't repeat it in English. So if someone says, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire ce soir? And you haven't quite understood it, you stop and think. Now, if you've not understood, you say, oh, je n'ai pas compris, doucement, etc. And then they repeat it. But when you've understood, say, si j'ai bien compris, ce soir, je vais manger dans un restaurant. It doesn't matter what it is. You're giving yourself permission to be corrected by saying, si j'ai bien compris. Or just nod. Acknowledge that you've understood, but don't say it in English. Or mais oui. Or say ah bon. Or oui, tout à fait. Yeah, exactly. Oui, précisément. Whatever it is, just add something to show in French that you've understood rather than saying the English. Now, we come to building confidence. We're nearly there. There's a lot in this lesson for you. Now, I say create a language exchange. It's getting more popular. Partner up with a language buddy for regular practice. Language exchange programs can be beneficial both in person or online. Mine is in Conversation Cafe, and even I've got a language buddy, and we use this time online to help each other. The live one I have is in town, and we meet up and everybody sits paired up, talking, language exchanging, one English, one French, and this works really well. It depends what you've got locally. If you haven't got anyone local, you can find things online. As I say, mine is called Conversation Cafe. I've got 8 groups and we all meet up. Now, set achievable goals. Break down your learning into small, manageable goals. Achieving these goals can build confidence over time. If you take on a whole chapter and learn the whole of the past tense and then suddenly go out and start applying it, there are so many different rules that there's too much for your brain to cope with. One thing at a time. Please, like I say, don't forget to look back. We've looked at that. Reflect on how you were at the start. It builds confidence to know that you've come a long way. And another thing is go and meet up with somebody you've not met for a while who's French. They will notice the difference more than you, and they'll go, wow, look at that. And practice patience. It's a gradual process. Do be kind and patient with yourself. It really matters. We are more negative than positive. We have to shift that. Once you know you are, it's easier to shift. And resources. Use language apps like AI, Duolingo, Babbel or Rosetta Stone. They can all provide structured learning and practice. I've heard of people using italki and other language apps as well. There are so many out there. You just pick the one that you want. Mine is the French Language Accelerator course for revising your school French and getting speaking. Now, you can make yourself flashcards. It's a bit of an old term. I call them prompts all over the place. If I want to learn something, I stick them up all over and start moving them around and tapping, speaking out loud and focusing on learning them. When I think I know them, I'll put them in a different place. And then I'll fold them over so that you can't see anymore, like that. You can't actually see it, but I know it's in there. Once I get to the point of knowing what it is, I throw it away and get ready for the next bout of learning. But they will stay there if I want to make a big effort for quite a while. Quite a while being as long as is your piece of string for learning. Now, the next thing is people. They are the best resource once you've put something in your head. Join French-speaking groups or clubs where you can practice in an encouraging social setting. I joined my local association. I joined the choir. There are ski clubs, there are running clubs, walking clubs, and events happening. And basically, I've got a ready-made community that helps me practice French. I also volunteered with the local rugby club for 2 years. That made a massive difference to how I heard the French. And these things matter. I do an in-person conversation cafe in my local town, like I said. And online, I've got 8 different groups for those who don't have local access to French speakers on a regular basis. So these things are out there. If you want to know what might be in your place, just type in, tu sais que tu viens de Tarbes, quand? And you put your town in, and then there's a Facebook group there, if you use Facebook, that is. Basically, I say, learn it, speak it, and live it. If you just learn it and you don't speak it, what use is it? Unless you're just translating on your own at home, working from home. Speak it so that you sound French and get used to the sound, so when you hear it, it makes sense. And live it. Get up, get out there, find different people online or in person, as many groups or activities or things that you can do regularly so that you have a proper community of sympathetic people to help you. If you're not ready to reach out to other people, I have a free masterclass that mentions what you can do to speak French with more confidence. It's my speciality. Hop over to www.simplyfrenchonline.com and go to the free masterclass on site there. You'll discover how to avoid translating all the time and how to take the reins of the conversation so you can practice more easily. So, merci beaucoup et à la prochaine!